Welcome to the Trend Talk. We are your host, Belle Hernandez.
And I'm Lizza Morales.
We have an amazing show, and it's all about diversity, right?
It is, and we are so excited to welcome Candido Cornejo, who just recently co-hosted the first ever Latinx Mi Gente Town Hall with the Casting Society of America in association with SAG-AFTRA.
What is that, a town hall, Mi Gente? Explain a little bit.
What is great about this is that they've had these for other communities, but this is the first time that they're having one for the Latinx community. And then this particular one, Candido was actually at the forefront of bringing together casting directors as well as actors and just professionals to sit down and talk about what is actually happening behind the camera in terms of casting to make sure that we're getting more representation of Latinidad in front of the camera. Because as you know, we're not a monolith. So I'm really excited to take a deeper dive look into what happened and what we can do to continue to champion those efforts.
You know, this is so important because this is a long time coming. Latinos have been working with SAG to address a lot of the issues, and here they are, they're doing it. It's so exciting. We can't wait to speak to Candido, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
So excited for our next guest. The accolades literally just come out of my mouth. You know, if you're an actor, you know what the casting process can be like. Oftentimes actors debate, are casting directors with them or against them? And today we're going to squash all those rumors and more, give you some good information, especially if you're Latino and you are looking to break into this business, or if you're already in this business and looking at elevating your next step, if you will. Our next guest, Candido Cornejo, is here to talk to us a little bit more about Mi Gente and a project that they worked on, which I'm so excited about. So welcome, Candido, to Trend Talk.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
We're so excited. So for those at home that don't understand maybe the total process of where casting really falls into this bigger picture, can you give us that breakdown?
Yeah, I mean, so as far as casting as it goes, I mean, it's like there's a lot of work that we do that's more than just discovering talent, so to speak. You know, there's a business side of it that is really, really crucial and imperative that I think a lot of people don't understand, you know, that we do. So there's like lifting contingencies and we speak with producers. So we casting directors, we actually used to be producers, you know, before we got the credit as, you know, casting directors or casting by. But then it kind of became this thing where now we are casting directors and we have our own department. So, you know, I think that like 80% of our job really is helping the producers and assisting them and guiding them to get the talent that they need and they require. For people like myself, which are independents, we have to lift contingencies. And so lifting contingencies means that we have to greenlight the project. We have to find a talent or a name that's going to elevate their project to where it needs to be in order to have the green light for it to, you know, proceed. And so a lot of the stuff that we do is really political, I would say. And it requires a lot of a business perspective, you know, as well as creativity. And then we get to do the fun things. We get to do the fun parts, which is auditioning actors and finding talent. If we're making a list of like, you know, Caucasian names because it's a Russian story or something, you know, it's like 80 names. And then if we do a Latino list because it's a Latino story, the list is like 15 names.
Now, in the clip that we just saw, it's from a bigger program that was just hosted by you and that was put together in combination from the CSA as well as SAG-AFTRA. So can you talk to us a little bit about how that program came to be and the work that it took to actually bring it to fruition? Because it's been, you know, in the works for a couple of years now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we actually did... so I was recently appointed into the Casting Society probably 4 or 5 months ago. And we always had conversations as a Latinx community about the lack of representation, the importance of representation, you know, inclusion and advocacy, all those things. And then so it was the first time where I was asked to bring the conversation into the bigger platform, you know, to have the support like the Casting Society, to discuss, you know, what is going on with the Latinx community. and the importance of it. And so we have two incredible vice presidents of advocacy. We have Felicia Joseph, who's now the head of casting at ABC. And then we also have Danielle Pretzfelder-Demchik, who is a huge advocate for people with disabilities and such. And so her and I actually did a program last year for National Coming Out Day. And we discussed people who, of the trans community. I'm a trans woman, so I spoke on the importance of that and the importance of people who are non-binary, genderqueer, et cetera. And so it was really successful. We really spotlighted a lot of issues that are within the community and in Hollywood. And then so I guess I remembered that. And then so we're like, what can we do for the Latinx community? I said, well, I have this conversation that I've discussed with many professionals. I've worked with Luis Valdez on Zoot Suit, and we speak on it endlessly. I brought him on board, Carla Houle, who's a veteran, who's a casting director. We got on the phone and talked about it, and she was in. Victor Vasquez, who's a huge advocate and ally from Broadway for racial justice and in the theater world in New York. And then people like Natalie Moran from CAA, Ivan De Paz, who is also a veteran and a legend, with the Latino community, the East Coast and the West Coast. And so it was easy in the sense of we've had this conversation before, but we could bring us together now on this bigger platform. But as far as like the educational standpoint, because it's on this platform and because we're speaking to casting directors, and I wanted to be open to producers and writers and directors and executives, because those are the people that are making the decisions that actually matter, that can make change. So I think the hardest part was navigating the conversation in a sense that it's for La Comunidad, but it's also for casting directors, it's also for actors, and it's also for the executives, and just keeping all these people in mind and say this is an educational standpoint and something to be productive.
And I love it. I was going to say, I love that you're coming from that perspective, because you highlight something that is very factual, right? We've been having these conversations. I've been in this industry one way or another and fascinated with it since I was a child. And so I've seen when the wave of, we have the Latin wave, and we've all seen it, right? Come and go, and no one ever does anything about it, right? And so I also love that in the program, Mi Gente, which I know the replay is now available to watch, which I would highly recommend, not only for those in the industry, but those that are interested in joining the industry and those teaching about the industry to watch. But you talked a little bit about this Latin wave and how this could be different. And so can you talk a little bit about, now we've had the conversation, what's next? Because to your point, the conversation has been had, but how do we move that needle forward?
So it's a question about commitment. We can't just have the talk and then move away. And okay, we have the talk, okay, moving on, what's the next thing? No, we need to have the conversation and then challenge not just those of us that are within the community who are working in the industry, but it's also our peers and our colleagues, and challenging what are we going to actively do to help the situation, to help the marginalized communities, to give opportunity. We talked a lot about opportunity and access for performers and people behind the camera. Like, what can we actively do? So what I'm committing to as a board member of CSA is continuing this conversation, expanding it, and try to find resources and access for people who don't have that. And however what that looks like, it requires a lot of conversation. It requires a lot of opening doors. And so I just partnered up. I just had a conversation with somebody at the studio at Disney who loved what we're doing. And we're actually trying to figure out if we could find a way to team up with them to continue the conversation and then do a program with CSA. And it's in the works of continuing a mini series, like through a podcast form, and really dissect what we spoke and some of the things that we weren't able to get to, and then seeing how these conversations, how they could navigate and help people and inspire people and catch attention, which it has.
Can we deconstruct, I should say, what the importance of a self-tape is, and how we can pull back maybe sometimes respectfully when we're being asked, let's say, to turn over a 6-pager in 24 hours, right? Because there is this respect of both professions, but how do we meet this happy middle, knowing that this, quote unquote, for lack of a better word, the self-taping is become the new normal?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's up to everybody's discretion, really. I mean, I really have to say that, because there is no other way now. We're not really in a day where you drive to a casting office and then, because it requires so much time and effort, like, oh, I can't make it, or I can make it, or whichever. You really have to think about, you really have to learn how to prioritize. But that's with any business. Really, it's like, how do I prioritize and know, like, what are the things that I need to focus on today? Obviously, if it's a ridiculous ask, like if it's 12 pages, 20 pages, obviously it's like, have your representative reach out. It's like, do you really have to do like the 12 pages or 6 pages? It's only 24 hours. Some agencies are really good about, like, we don't do 24-hour calls. It's just not, like, no matter what, like, we're not going to do it, and we understand that. So, but at the same token, you need to understand that we as casting directors and casting professionals, we know what this is, and we try really hard to accommodate to actors. Like, if I know it's going to be an intense scene or whatever, I try to give as much time as possible, and I try to do the deadline, to somewhere where it's fair, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like for an actor to prepare. But sometimes our hands are tied. Sometimes we really don't have the luxury, especially like in the independent world. Like, and if I'm moving really, really, really quickly, or if it's a TV series or it's a pilot, we don't really have time, to accommodate. We don't have the luxury. It's not like if I myself have decided to do this turnaround in 24 hours because I want to make you suffer. Like, that's not it at all. It is what it is. And if you could do it, fine. Always ask, like, hey, is there any way that we could turn this in, in 2 more days or whatever? We understand. Don't take advantage of that, obviously, because we know. But it's like, we'll try to accommodate you as much as possible. But sometimes, like, I'm sorry, like, the deadline is 12 o'clock tomorrow, and that's just what it is. And if you could send it, awesome. And if not, then no worries. Understand that just because you can't do it doesn't mean that somebody else can't. And so, and I always keep that at the forefront. So it's like, that's fine. I have all these other tapes that are coming in that I need to look at anyway. So keep that in mind as well.
I love how candid you are. And I mean, that goes to your name. So I'm here for it, because I think that that's something that people really underestimate, right? That there's, we can be in a world, and I'm all about mindset. And I think we can be in a world of complaining, or we can be in a world of finding solutions. So it's really, what is that balance? And understanding that the casting director or professional is there to lift you up, because they're hoping to be able to be like, okay, cast it, done, close the book, let's go on to the next role, right? Like, you're not being like, oh no, let me torture them and sit here, right? So as we talk about that, though, one of the other things that we've seen, and you all touched on it a little bit, but when we're looking at talent from other countries, or even talent within the United States that is Latinx, that is bilingual, but for whatever reason, the industry doesn't think, for myself, for instance, I'm bilingual, but oftentimes I'll go in and they're like, you don't look Latina enough. Or there's someone, Afro-Latino, that now luckily that conversation is changing, where before they were like, oh, you don't look like you're Latino because you look like you're Black. Well, you know what? We come in all shapes, all sizes, all different, we're not, a monolith, which is something that we all speak about. Do you feel like that needle is changing, or is there more we can do to push that forward?
I mean, we have to really deconstruct a lot. Like, we have to really tackle a lot, in order to make that happen, because we as casting directors can only do so much as far as like educating our producers, our directors, our writers, the studio, if they listen. Actors can only do so much as far as like coming in the room and it's like, hey, by the way, like, this isn't really a Cuban story, or this isn't how we do it in Mexico, or whatever that is. There's only so much where we have to add our voice to the conversation. But I think that we really need to take a step back and really dissect from the very roots. And that's from the writers. Are the writers part of this community? And if they're not, the studios and networks or the producers who want to make this happen need to understand that if you don't have a person of this category, of this community, then hire a consultant across the board. And understand what this world and this community that you're writing about or putting a story forward, you must have a consultant at the very least, to help at the very beginning. It goes to producers as well. Like, is a producer on board or a consultant producer on board that could help you with the story? Because I think that a lot of the times there's a misconception that, oh, I'm going to write the story because I'm really fascinated with, I don't know, let's just say a story about the Day of the Dead, for example. And it's like, okay, great. It's like, is there a producer or a writer or is the director Latina or part of that culture or that understands that culture? And if not, you must have a consultant on set to be able to describe and explain to you what those things are. Because there's a misconception that, oh, but if we hire Latino talent or if we hire a Mexican actress, then we could ask them, what this means or what these things mean. But at the end of the day, that's not their job. It's not the actor's job to consult with you and tell you, you need to hire them to do what they were meant to do. And of course they're going to pitch in whenever they can, but they need to be focusing on their lines. They need to be focusing about, constructing a character and portraying a character, and for them to take time off to be like, hey, like, what does this mean? Or is it okay if we do this? That's not their job. So I think that we have to really dissect all the key, because it's everywhere across the board. Mm-hmm. And then as far as we as a community, what are we doing to educate our peers and even people within our own communities? Because like we're fantastic and there's so many of us, and that's the beauty about our culture and our community, that we are so diverse and there is a plethora of many of us. And we need to be able to support each other and educate each other, because we still don't know even like about ourselves.
I was going to say, I really love that you said that, because it really brings to point even what we're seeing with Wednesday, right, on Netflix. I so love Jenna Ortega. I love, of course, Luis Guzman, even Fred Armisen, who a lot of people don't know is half Latino. What I love is that we had representation without needing to have a sombrero or something that says, yeah, like I'm Latino, right? But it's interesting because in our culture, we sometimes are our own worst enemies. Do you find that? Because there's all this backlash of they didn't show enough Latinidad. They didn't do it. They only mentioned it a few times. It really needed to go over. I'm like, what is happening? Yeah. We need to stop arguing with each other. And I think that goes to your point. And I'm sure that's even a frustration as a casting professional that you encounter yourself.
No, 1,000%. I mean, and also being delicate with that, because I think that because we spoke on this quite significantly in our Mi Gente event, and then lots of great feedback from people. People were like, truly like, wow. And casting professionals that are not from our community, I think were more so like, oh my God, I didn't even know that there were 33 countries of Latinidad, right? But the thing to keep in mind is that we have to be empathetic to each other, because yes, we do need to work together. Yes, we do. The stopping complaining, like to stop complaining, doesn't mean that we're trying to silence a particular group of our community. We need to actively listen to what are the problems, what are the sore subjects. Like Erica Flores, she spoke about having inclusion written in a Post-it on her computer so that she's reminded of who was left out today. Who was left behind, and how do I fix that? And how do I target that? How do I address that? And so we need to be able to listen, because we have so many underrepresented communities within our own community, underrepresented parts of our community. So the indigenous peoples, Afro-Latinos, people with disabilities, trans people, just to name a few. And so are people actively listening to our issues? Are people listening to that and giving us a chance, giving them a chance? Particularly what I've seen, what my personal statement is for within our community, trans people and indigenous people, must be able to be given a voice and a chance to explain who they are and show that they exist. Afro-Latinos, the same thing. Like we still have this fight. I think that we're now starting to see the imperativeness of Afro-Latinidad being represented, and that's great. Are we somewhere where it's been fixed? Not at all. But at least we've started the conversations, and we're making people aware that this is an issue.
Yes, my gosh. Well, this is definitely an issue, right, that we can talk about for so long. And I just really want to thank you for your insight. We're excited to see what comes next. Now, before I let you go, one thing that I did appreciate that you also mentioned in the clip that we saw was how you build these lists, right? And so is there anyone on your radar that we should be on the lookout? Is there anyone that we should be supporting what their work is next that you're like, this is one to watch?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think everybody is so special, to be honest. I mean, I think that it's kind of like the question of like, what do you look for as a casting director, or like, what's your favorite type of talent? It's like, well, it depends on the story. It depends on the script. It depends, it's like there are different things for different story, different type of actors for different stories. And that's the beauty about being a casting director, is that I like to be entertained. And so I see people that are perfect for various things. It's not like I have one person, like a Meryl Streep, that could do every story that I do. No, it's like everybody has their own story. That's the beauty of it. Yeah, and I'm very proud to say that I did put people, on the spotlight, like where I did discover Jaina Lee Ortiz at the ABC Showcase with Felicia and Patricia before she got the big part. She actually, was cast in a showcase for ABC and then got the part that made her what she is. So she had to say goodbye to us and then went ahead. I just saw Henry Esteve be celebrated for something. He was also part of that showcase. Vivian Lamoli, the same thing. Like I knew her when she was, a baby, and then I put her in The Answer to My Prayer, a Nancy de los Santos project. Janine Mason, who I adore, Jaina Lee Ortiz, it's just like so many people that are so talented. I will say, like, I did a huge open call this wasn't like for Latinos, but it was for Two-Spirit people. And I found so many beautiful performers, from actors and dancers and musicians, and got to know that culture. And we discovered an artist, an actor, teenage actor out of Canada, Phoenix Wilson, who is phenomenal, and was able to put him in a first Two-Spirit story ever, that it's going to be put on Disney Plus, next year. And so it's just, that's the beauty of this. It's like, it's not just one person. It's like every actor has something to contribute, and you never know when that perfect storyline, that perfect project will present itself, where we could finally put you in where everything that you are, will be showcased and spotlighted in the correct way.
That gave me chills. That just gave me chills. Just, oh my gosh, I can't wait to watch. And make sure at home, if you're not already following @Kissed by Loki on Instagram, please do. It'll be just such a treat. I love the content that you share. It's always empowering. And again, it's all about uplifting the voices. I'm excited to see what comes next with CSA. And I just want to thank you again for joining us. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Bye.